Gear up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Here's your host, Phil Kornblue.
When that putt went in, I was really obviously excited, but I was walking off the green and Michael said, hey, he held me up and he goes, that's a momentum shift right there.
Jordan Spieth didn't need too much momentum. What a way to finish. The Professor Tom Hayes with me. I'm Teddy Hefner, by the way. If you play the last final holes, the last 5 holes in any tournament, 5 under par, I think you got a pretty good chance.
Yes, especially at the Open.
Yeah, he hit one on 13, I guess it was, so far right they almost couldn't find it, and he had enough sense to know the rules. Took a drop back where he had it lie, and was able to hit it up short of the green and make a bogey. But it was a good bogey. Then he goes birdie, eagle, birdie, birdie. That's strong. That's stronger than dog's breath is what that is. Stronger than green onions. But Jordan Spieth winning the British Open. Got some baseball notes for you. A couple of football notes as well. Coach Chad Holbrook, College of Charleston, will join us about 6:30. Want to apologize for Friday. We ran into some technical problems, or somebody ran into one of our producers. But we had or maybe he ran into somebody. I don't know. But we had some problems on Friday. So I want to apologize for that. But we are back with you. Had Coach Holbrook set up for Friday, and he has graciously agreed to come back and join us today. Philip is still on vacation. He'll be back with you next Monday. It'll be me the rest of the week, and I appreciate the Professor Tom Hayes for lending his expertise. I'm going to tease something before we get any further. Mm-hmm. I was looking through one of my favorite websites is cbssports.com. And the reason it's one of my favorites is not that I think it's a lot better content-wise than any of the others, but just the way they arrange the stuff makes it easier for me to go through at a quick glance and anything I want to print off. And today, they had the best Major League Baseball player from each of the 50 states, which I thought was very, very interesting. Who do you think from South Carolina? I want you to think about that. And I got $99.13 that says nobody's going to get it. And then the best NBA player, I think I got $99.13 that says 99.13% will get this one. The best NBA player from the state. I want you to think about it. Don't say anything yet, but just think about it.
Is this a committee of one who did?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I would assume it's all of their baseball writers and all of their basketball writers.
This is for last 50 years or any time
ever.
Okay.
Ever.
Okay.
E-V-A-H. Ever. So we spell it down south. Anyway, I wanted to kind of tease that a little bit. The wide receiver, former Clemson wide receiver Mike Williams says, "What are you talking about? Surgery." A little false news there. Fake news. I'm sorry, I got the term wrong. But the rookie wide receiver Mike Williams says that the back situation is good. Says everything's good. There was some false information being released. I don't know who released it, but everything is good. He is expected to open on the physically unable to perform list, but is not looking at back surgery. And that's good because you start messing with the back. That's a little difficulty there. But it'd be interesting to see what kind of exercise regimen they have for him to stretch and get that back cleared up, because he'll need it when they start in the NFL season. Whatever he's doing, let me know, because I have problems with my back as well. Of course, it might be this extra 30 pounds I'm carrying. Might have something to do with that as well. I want to mention Wednesday night, the South Carolina Coaches for Charity event taking place in Greenville. Coach Mike Ayers, Clay Hendricks, Brent Thompson, Fisher DeBerry, Buddy Pugh, Will Muschamp, Dabo Sweeney, all at this event. Gets started at 6 o'clock, and it is for a good cause, and it is not cheap. But if you want to go, I think it's like $200 a ticket. Does that sound right, Tom?
Mm-hmm. It's all for charity, Ted.
Yeah. Well, I'm all for charity.
But charity
if I had the $200.
But the charity begins at home.
That's right. I'm going to do one of those GoFundMe accounts. GoFundMe because I can't fund myself. But, anyway, that's coming up on Wednesday. We're, 40 days away? I can't remember now from the start of the college football season. The Gamecocks will start practice on August the 31st, and Clemson starts on the 3rd of August. So we're just around the corner from getting some football started. And Panthers report. Is it tomorrow they report? I think they report tomorrow because the Panthers GM Marty Herney today fired their personnel director Mark Kontz, who's been there for a while. I'm not sure how long, but he's been there for a while.
But it's kind of tough time to be cleaning house right before the.
Well, Kontz had been promoted 2 months ago by recently departed Dave Gettleman, the recently fired GM, and I don't know. Maybe Herney felt he didn't have his full support.
His loyalty.
Yeah. So anyway, that move made today by the Panthers. Not good news if you're a baseball fan. Guess maybe if you're a Giants fan, but they're so far back it doesn't matter. But Clayton Kershaw out 4 to 6 weeks. When I first read this, I thought they were just putting him on the 10-day disabled list because of some tightness in his back. But he missed 2 months last year with back trouble. So maybe they're just being overly cautious because they're certainly going to get into the playoffs. With the initial prognosis, the current back injury expected to sideline Kershaw for 4 to 6 weeks. They do want him to see another doctor before a timetable is ascertained. Our Red Sox fan from Lake Bowen was talking about the third base problem with the Red Sox. Well, maybe they have solved it. Well, they hope they've solved it. They've called up Rafael Devers or Devers. I'm not sure how he pronounces it. Devers to fill their third base forward. Was hitting .305 across AA and AAA this season. 19 doubles, 3 triples, and 18 home runs in 77 AA games before being promoted to Pawtucket. I only played 8 games at AAA and was hitting .355 at AAA, so he wasn't having any trouble there.
Well, they got some bats around him, Teddy. He'll see some good pitches in Boston.
Yeah. Tim Tebow, by the way, homered and had another hit yesterday for Port St. Lucie in the Florida
home cooking
State League. He likes it down there.
He's back in his home area. That's home cooking.
Yeah. I apologize for jumping back and forth. I should have mentioned this when I was talking football, but Andrew Luck will start the training camp on the physically unable to perform list as well. He's still recovering from off-season shoulder surgery. What do you think of Luck? My morning partner here in town, Dr. Rick Sanford, doesn't think much of Luck at all. I'd love to have Andrew Luck in New York.
Well, the thing about Luck, the guy knows how to play the quarterback position. I think probably he played with that injury last year, Teddy, and he didn't look good. And he tried to play through it. Sometimes you got to tell people when you're actually injured and can't perform like you want to. But I take it.
Yeah. You can play hurt, you can't play injured. Chris Ballard is the Colts general manager. I know that only because I got it right in front of me here. And he said that Luck did not participate in any mini camps and will open on the PUP list. Had surgery to repair torn labrum in his shoulder earlier this postseason. So that's some of the news notes that we've got out there. Oh, yeah, the Twins. Back to baseball. I'm jumping all over the place. The Twins acquired left-handed pitcher Jaime Garcia, and catcher Anthony Recker from Atlanta. The Braves get cash and minor league pitcher Oscar Ynoa. Why N-O-A? Is the Y silent there? Is it just Noah?
It might be Noah. Only 19 years old. Apparently the trade was consummated last week, but the pitcher that the Braves wanted, they looked at his injury history, said, hold it, wait a minute.
Yep,
so the Twins had to come back with somebody else.
The Braves activated Kurt Suzuki from the bereavement list. All right, Teddy Hefner, Tom Hayes with you. Jared Rogers behind the glass. We'll be back. Sports Talk. All right, Chad Holbrook in just a bit. We'll be joined in the second hour. David Shelton talking some high school athletics. Congratulations to airport punter Paxton Brooks. That's a cool name for a punter. Don't you think? He sounds like a punter. Paxton Brooks has earned a spot in the Under Armour All-American game. He went to a kicking camp in Milwaukee to earn this position. That game will be held in January at the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. Mr. Brooks has offers from Wake Forest and Army and plans to visit Wake during the spring. Also getting interest from North Carolina State and Tennessee. And tell Philip that I did do some recruiting.
Oh, okay, you did.
Yeah, we need to. We got room for you. 1-800-956-7266. 1-800-956-7266. I wanted to tease this, and I did tease this. The CBSSports.com's best NBA player from the state of South Carolina, and this one's, I think, most of us would agree with this. Kevin Garnett from Malden. Second on the list, Alex English, who's in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Of course, Garnett will be. Larry Nance. Clemson recruited Larry Nance from Anderson. He was 6'5", and he grew up to about 6'9". Boy, he was a really good player. And Jermaine O'Neal. So that was the three runners up to Kevin Garnett. I don't have any problem with that. Do you have a problem with that?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Didn't Larry Nance's son play at Wyoming for Larry Shyatt or something? I can't remember.
I think you might be right. I think you might be right.
Yeah.
But I have a big problem with the best Major League player from each of the 50 states in South Carolina's. Willie Randolph from Holly Hill. Willie Randolph was born in Holly Hill, spent like a month there. He grew up in Brooklyn.
Exactly.
So even if you say, okay, he's eligible, how can you pick Willie Randolph ahead of Shoeless Joe Jackson? How can you pick Willie Randolph ahead of Jim Rice? Jim Rice isn't even on their list.
Well, that's my point. The first name that popped in my head was Jim Rice.
I mean, he was a good player. Willie Randolph was a really good player. Career 276 hitter, stole some bases, well, some really good Yankees team, 6-time All-Star. But
then he managed once, didn't he? Didn't he manage?
I don't know. He may have. Started with Pittsburgh. And a matter of fact, he went to, did he play at Charleston, or he was just playing against Charleston? It was the first time he had ever been in the state of South Carolina since his birth. And so I just don't get that.
That's why I can't do that. I mean, because where you're born has nothing to do with where you were nurtured. Your talent was nurtured. So
I totally agree.
Where your talent was nurtured is where you're from, in my opinion.
I agree. Do you know who they named the best NBA player from the state of New York? Michael Jordan. Because he was born in Brooklyn, but he grew up in Wilmington. Where was Pete Maravich born?
I want to say, wasn't he
North Carolina?
North Carolina, something, because his dad was at NC State.
Right, and then went to Clemson.
And then went to Clemson.
Or was it the other way around? I can't remember.
No, I think he was at NC State and went to Clemson.
Okay.
And then popped up.
Maravich played at Daniel, but yeah. But Shoeless Joe's second on this list. Bobo Newsom third, and Larry Doby fourth. Jim Rice isn't even mentioned. Jim Rice is in the Hall of Fame. But I'm with you. I mean, Michael Jordan's not from New York.
No, he's from Wilmington, North Carolina.
And Willie Randolph's from Brooklyn. He's not from South Carolina. But I found that I was going through the wire earlier, and I found that, and I thought that was pretty interesting. But I mean, Willie Randolph was a good player. But even if Willie Randolph's eligible, he is not better than Jim Rice. He's not better than Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Well, let's face it. You know, those years, especially I would say the second year after he and Freddie Lynn were brought up together, I think Jim Rice frightened pitchers when he came to the plate.
Well, they once they once asked, who was it? Anyway, they asked one of the Boston players what music they listened to on the bus. He said, whatever Jim Rice wants to hear. Yeah, whatever Jim Rice wants to hear. I saw Jim Rice in American Legion Baseball in 1970 playing for Anderson, and they wound up playing Orangeburg for the state title. And Orangeburg had a slim right-handed pitcher, Nate Snell, who wound up playing in the big leagues. But boy, he hit some bombs. Gosh, he hit some home runs. Big, strong kid. And he was drafted in the first round. And I remember telling him that, hey, I was at the state newspaper then. Let me know when you sign. I want that story. And I got a message from him, so I called him. He wasn't there. He was at his girlfriend's house, but they gave me his girlfriend's number, so I called him at his girlfriend's house, and of course he confirmed that he had signed. He probably doesn't even remember me. That was a long, long time ago. But boy, that year he had in '78 over 300 total bases. But
Well,
anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Well, as a tandem, I guess in my lifetime, Teddy, I guess there are others, but I've never seen two more polished and talented rookies brought up together than he and Freddie Lynn that particular year when they came up in Boston. And they started a hard charge out of nowhere. And people say, where did these guys come from?
Lynn came up. Lynn was Rookie of the Year and MVP in '75. Jim came up some in '74. And he was on that 75 team that played the Reds in the World Series, but he got hurt. And so he didn't play in the World Series, or maybe that curse would have gotten taken care of. The curse of the Bambino might have gotten taken care of a little bit sooner, because he was definitely a heck of a player. I got Delvin from Fountain Inn. Delvin, go ahead, please.
Hey guys, I know y'all was out Friday, and y'all didn't get a chance to talk about the big dudes. I'll bring it back up. What y'all think about the Hugh Freeze firm? It came out and what he got fired for.
Yeah, did we talk? We didn't talk about that any at all.
No.
Well, Hugh Freeze should have been he should have been taking care of Ole Miss instead of his young Miss, is what he should have been doing. I used that line already. Did I use that line already? But no, it was. I don't know if I was surprised or not. I guess I was a little surprised that he would not have a little bit more sense than that. Basically calling it an escort service on his university phone. He was escorted out, according to one of the newspapers. Well, that's a pretty good headline.
I just thought that they were looking for a reason, Delvin.
Maybe so.
To get rid of him for a cause so they could cut a deal so he wouldn't get his whole salary. But here's a guy that is an Ole Miss alum, and I thought they held on to him as long as they did, because I thought he was gone last year because he was an alum.
I think if they had gotten rid of him last year, it would have been a tacit admission, I think, that they had done things wrong. And I don't think they wanted to admit that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, Delvin, is they probably wouldn't have been in this place right now had they not tried to throw some of it off on Houston Nutt. Because when Nutt brought up that defamation of character suit, that was all she wrote. Then they started to look into other things, and then that's when everything hit the fan. I
got Danny with us. I think we got a few minutes for Danny. Danny, go ahead, please.
Teddy, I don't call that much, but I just had to correct you guys about something.
All right, please do.
Okay. Chris Maravich came from Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. A guy told Frank Howard he wanted to coach in the ACC, and he hired him at Clemson. Pete went to elementary school in 6 Mile, South Carolina.
Okay. Yeah, I thought he went to Clemson first and then went from Clemson to NC State.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
I think you guys said it the opposite way, though. And also, Pete went to Broughton High in Raleigh, and he actually said in his something he wrote that he wanted to go to West Virginia and play for Bucky Waters because he didn't have any SAT requirements.
Right.
But his dad put all that pressure on him to go to LSU. And another thing, you guys might correct me on this. When you're talking about players from South Carolina, you mentioned Willie Randolph and all. Did you mention Bobby Richardson? I mean, I thought he was a lot better second baseman. Really had a higher batting average for sure.
I don't know what Bobby's final. I'll look that up. But yeah, Bobby was pretty good too.
He was good too,
and he was from some great teams. When you think about those Yankees teams in the '60s, you think about the power. But what made them so good was they had the best double play combination in baseball, and Bobby was a part of that. Hi, welcome back. Sports Talk. Teddy Hafner with you, joined by the Professor Tom Hayes, mentioning Pete Maravich. Had Les Robinson on a few times, former coach at Citadel, East Tennessee State, NC State, also the AD at the same schools. And he was at NC State when Pete was just a kid. And he's just talking about some of the pickup games with Maravich. I mean, it's like Chad Holbrook playing baseball. I mean, you just a joy to watch. Coach Chad Holbrook is joining us from down in Charleston. Hey, Coach, have you had any time to get any sleep down there yet?
No, it's been a busy time. There's a lot on the plate. There's a lot we're trying to do, and so right now there's not been much time for that. But all it's fun. It's been enjoyable, and certainly excited about it.
What has been the first priority, first order of business? Getting in touch with current players, getting in touch with recruits, or a little bit of both?
I think all of the above. I've been talking to current players, talking to some recruits, obviously trying to get a staff on board, looking at our schedule for 2018, ordering equipment, ordering uniforms. I mean, it's been a lot. We're extremely busy, and we're trying to map out a plan for the fall and what we're going to do come August when the kids come back to school. And it's just a busy time, but it's an exciting time as well.
Speaking of staff, you get my resume yet? I put an extra stamp on it.
You'll be a good first base coach. I know that, and I know you're ready for that challenge.
Oh, that'd be fun. Have you made any progress on your staff? Can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, we are very close to hiring Kevin Nichols, the head coach at Erskine College, who's a great hitting coach, and obviously, has been a head coach for 19 years, so he's very experienced. And I just thought I wanted somebody alongside of me that had head coaching experience and also been, in a program in which, fundraising is important, making sure you stretch your budget dollars important, making sure you're educated on the fact of how to order equipment because, the resources aren't endless, and it's a little bit different than when I was in South Carolina. So I needed someone that had the expertise in regards to that, and I think Kevin does a great job of providing that for me. And not only that, I think he's one of the better hitting coaches in the country. So I'm excited about putting him on our staff. No other
additions yet?
Well, we got a pitching coach that I'm excited. I'm right now working on.
Okay.
There's a number of guys that are out there that we're talking to, and I'm trying to hire a quality pitching coach. And obviously, it's a very, very important hire. And there's 2 or 3 or 4 people on the list right now, and rather not say their names. I don't think that would be fair to them.
That's
but
fine.
I hope to have someone fair. I hope to have someone hired, hopefully by the end of the week.
Talking to College of Charleston coach Chad Holbrook. Are you familiar with the Colonial? I mean, you've played North Carolina Wilmington before. You've played Elon before, James Madison. I think you may have played William and Mary before. But are you familiar with the league at all?
I am. Obviously, we've played a number of those opponents, and I'm not as familiar with it as I was the SEC or I was the ACC. But yet, at the same point in time, I have played the College of Charleston quite a bit when I was at South Carolina, and I've played a number of other schools in leagues very similar to that. Obviously, we played UNC Wilmington in a regional championship, so we're very familiar with that, the talent level that they have. We've played Elon in the past. We've played Northeastern in the past, and some schools up in the Northeast that are in the CAA. So I have some familiarity. I don't have a lot of familiarity with the on-campus venues that we will be traveling to because, obviously we played those teams at home. Outside of the Wilmingtons and Elons, the further north you go, I don't think I've been on many campuses up north, but I'm certainly excited about learning more about the CAA, and I'm certainly going to have to become familiar with it very quickly.
Well, the interesting thing is, obviously, you've had a lot of experience coaching recruiting. Now, you got one aspect of recruiting that nobody can duplicate. It's called the Atlantic Ocean. I know you'll use that. But when you look at your roster, do you really put an emphasis early on as you take over a program, your pitching, or do you look at other positions as well?
I think we got to look at all of them. We're trying to recruit the best players, obviously in the state of South Carolina first. But yeah, we do have a neat product to sell. Obviously, we're very, very close to the beach, as you said, and we're in the #1 city in the world by some publications. We're also we're voted the #1 the most beautiful campus in the United States. So we have a culture and a uniqueness that and not many other people have. So we do have a lot to sell. We've also won quite a bit. John Pulowski did a great job at the College of Charleston and had the program on the brink of the College World Series, as did Monty Lee several years ago. So we know that it can be done. And when you look at the Stony Brooks of the world making it to the College World Series, and obviously Coastal Carolina winning the national championship, we shouldn't settle for just being okay. We should try to be one of the better teams in the state and one of the better teams in the country if we can perform at a high level. And that's our mindset as we go into this thing. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. As you put together a schedule, will some of your emphasis, Coach, be on, let's see if we can't get some of the SEC and ACC schools to play us, maybe even midweek, just to give that flavor to your schedule that'll attract recruits?
I think so. And the schedules, there's a fine line between scheduling something that's too difficult to handle. Obviously, there's a fine line there. You want to be able to be successful in your conference and in your league and put yourself in position to win the regular season championship and the conference championship. But you also have to play the big boys. You have to have a couple weekend series against teams in the top 20, and we're going to certainly attempt to do that. In the middle of the week, like you said, I think we got to try to play the Clemson and the South Carolinas. Is it going to happen in year one? I don't know. A lot of times when I got here, there was 56 games already, kind of preliminary on the schedule. So I'm having to make a few adjustments here and there. But a lot of that was in place before I arrived. But as we go forward, I do think that we're going to play a couple series a year against SEC or ACC teams, and I think you'll see us play midweek games against the South Carolinas, the Clemsons, maybe the North Carolinas, the NC State, teams like that we can get to in a relatively short period of time.
Coach, will you any differently than you would for a South Carolina?
I'm going into this thing approaching it the same as I always have, and I told the coach that I have on board right now, and I told the media press conference today that we're not gonna just settle for recruits. We're not gonna shy away from any recruiting battle. If the best player in the state of South Carolina has us in South Carolina or us in Clemson in his final two, then we're going to fight to the very end to try to get that kid. I don't think that we should concede anything. I know that might be a little bit braggadocious or maybe even not intelligent, but that's our mindset. We're going to try to get the best players in this state, and if the best players in this state are interested in the College of Charleston, we're going to recruit the heck out of them, regardless of who else that kid is interested in. And we're going into this thing not shying away from any recruiting battle.
Well, I understand there's a couple of kids named Holbrook, Reese, and Cooper who are playing pretty well this summer with AAU teams. You got them on the radar?
Well, they're awful young. They got a lot of work to do, and they got to get in the weight room and grow up. And Reese is a 2021, so he's not even going into his 9th grade year, and Cooper's going into his 8th grade year. So they got a lot of work to do. But hopefully, being around our players at the College of Charleston, being able to practice with us, hopefully they'll get better. And who knows, maybe they'll be potential student athletes here one day down the road.
Coach, just 20 seconds or so, about a minute. Will you always have good thoughts about the University of South Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, my time at South Carolina is something I'll cherish for the rest of my life. I left my alma mater for the University of South Carolina 9+ years ago. Had an incredible experience. Obviously, we went to, I guess we went to 7 regionals in 9 years and 6 super regionals. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. With 5 super regionals. 3 trips to the College World Series, and obviously 2 national championships and countless relationships that I've had with former players and ADs and administrators and wonderful people at South Carolina. So I'll always think the world and have fond memories of my time at South Carolina. There's only positive things to say, and I'll cherish it for the rest of my life.
Hey, Coach, thanks so much for your time. Check the mail now. Put an extra stamp on that resume.
Okay, sounds good, Teddy. Thanks for having me.
right, I've already delved into some recruiting with the airport punter Paxton Brooks. Brooks has qualified for the Under Armour All-American game. That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Thing. That's pretty cool. And we've got some more recruiting from our recruiting guru junior, Jared Rogers.
Recruiting guru junior, Phil Kornblut is Batman, so I can be his Robin for the time being.
Well, you know who gave that name to Kornblut, don't you?
Oh,
Danny Ford many years ago.
Danny Ford made him.
He came walking into a press conference and Ford says, there comes that recruiting guru.
Well, the Robin of recruiting guru, we've got unheralded wide receiver Ronnie Jameson of Irmo and Highland Junior College. He made a splash at Will Muschamp's final summer camp at USC on Friday. He was so impressive that Will Muschamp offered him, and Sunday, Jameson completed his rags to riches story, and he committed to the Gamecocks almost right away. Jameson played quarterback and running back in Irmo, and he didn't attract much recruiting attention. Last season at Highland, he played receiver and caught 17 passes for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that earned him some mid-major offers, but now he'll get a chance to play in the SEC. Jameson's commitment was the 4th for the Gamecocks from their Friday to Saturday recruiting activities, which included the Spurs Up Cookout Saturday. They also added commitments to their 2018 class offensive lineman Jesus Gibbs of Dumfries, Virginia, and wide receiver Taquan Johnson of Sylvania, Georgia. The Gamecocks have 15 commitments in that 2018 class. They also picked up their first commitment for 2019, and that's Adarius Gee of Cordero, Georgia. And we've also got Gibbs, who picked up the Gamecocks announced that his final 10 included Clemson, Virginia Tech, Boston College, Maryland, Rutgers, Connecticut, West Virginia, and Navy. Gibbs is an offensive lineman. He made his decision after attending the camp Friday. Johnson has long been on the radar for USC receivers coach Brian McClendon, and he picked up his Gamecocks offer in June while at camp. Mississippi State and West Virginia were 2 of the other programs that he strongly considered. Defensive back Israel Makuma of Berkeley and Bossier City, Louisiana. He announced on Monday morning to a commitment to Florida State over USC. Mukama made the announcement at Berkeley High School. Mukama first put on a Gamecocks cap and then tossed it back on the table before picking up the Seminoles cap and started a tomahawk chop. He said,
come on, do something original.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so many things you can do with that. Florida State's system is great. They play a lot of defensive backs at once, and most of them are tall and long, just like me. And they have been able to develop those big, long guys. So I feel like it was best for me because they will be able to develop me as well. That's coming from Mukuama. He also had Oklahoma State and Indiana on his short list. Mukuama said that if Florida State allows, he might still be able to take other official visits in the fall, but he hasn't decided all of that yet because he just wants to see who really still pushes for him. Now we've got Tucker teammates wide receiver Josh Van and offensive lineman Dylan Wonham. They both attended the USC Cookout Saturday. Van said as of Monday, he gives USC a slight lead over Georgia as he tries to decide between the two. He's just not sure yet when he'll make his decision. Then other top targets that made it on the Cookout on Saturday included defensive back Rick Sandridge, offensive lineman Jovan Gwynn, defensive end Kingsley Igbari, defensive back Jonathan Gibson, defensive end wide receiver Matthew Hill. You don't see too many defensive end wide receivers. You've also got defensive end Raekwon O'Neal and linebacker Channing Tindall. Clemson had a cookout as well. They had their annual all-in cookout on Friday. The attendees were mostly committed players and 2019 targets. 2 2018 targets who did attend were defensive back Tyson Campbell of Plantation, Florida, and running back Lynn J. Dixon of Butler, Georgia, a Tennessee commitment. Campbell visited Alabama today. 3 other 2018 Clemson targets who were expected to attend but did not make it. That's defensive back Anthony Cook, offensive lineman Trey Hill, and offensive lineman Jamari Sawyer. Also, offensive lineman target of Fairfield, Ohio, went to Ohio State's event on Friday night instead of the all-in cookout. like he had said he would do at the opening in Oregon. USC defensive back target Trey Dean of Hampton, Georgia, dropped plans to announce July 31st, and he's opened up recruiting after focusing up in USC, Georgia, Florida State, and Clemson. Clemson and USC are in the final 8 with offensive lineman Tank Jenkins of Montgomery, Alabama. The others are Oklahoma, Missouri, Louisville, Miami, Auburn, and Florida. Tight end James Mitchell of Big Stone Gap, Virginia, has USC in his top 5 with Georgia, Tennessee, Duke, and Virginia Tech. Clemson running back target Asa Martin of Decatur, Alabama, visited Alabama and Auburn this weekend. He was at Clemson last Monday, and the Tigers offered him when he was there. USC target defensive back J.C. Horn of Alpharetta, Georgia, visited Alabama Friday and Tennessee Saturday. He's trying to decide between those two. Greer defensive back Quavion White committed to Georgia State. Defensive back Chris Pam of Georgia Military Junior College in Blythewood visited Florida State Thursday. He plans a return trip to Tallahassee in the fall. Wide receiver defensive back Tyler Gore of North Myrtle Beach. He also committed to Georgia State. And Clemson is in the top 6 with 2019 defensive end Christopher Hinton of Norcross, Georgia. The others are Georgia, Stanford, Michigan, Ohio State, and North Carolina. USC offered 2019 offensive lineman Jalen Humphreys of Lawrenceville, Georgia, and 2019 offensive lineman Jacob Monk of Wendell, North Carolina. And then we get to basketball. John Rothstein of CBS Sports reported grad transfer 6'3" Randy Onwasar of Southern Utah will officially visit USC in August. He is scheduled for Gonzaga August 1st, and he's also getting interest from Oregon and LSU. Clemson offered 6'6" Aaron Nesmith of Porter Guard. He also has USC offer and several others. And now we switch over to baseball. Clemson gained commitments from 2019 right-hand pitcher Jake Lewis of Crescent and 2020 right-hand pitcher Alec Edmondson of Malden. 2019 right-handed pitcher Trey Tuzik of Charlotte committed to USC. And there we go with that extended version of the recruiting report.
Well, you know, what was the other guy from Porter Guard?
Yes.
That's how I pronounce Porter Guard. That's Stephen Colbert's alma mater, too.
Leftist communists. Nice story in the Washington Post. Speaking of leftists, in the Washington Post today on Brian Harper. It's Bryce Harper's younger, well, actually, he's his oldest brother. Pitched here at South Carolina. Always had a good arm, but couldn't get on the mound because he couldn't throw strikes. But of course, you get to the pros and you get to work every day and you get to work with those pitching coaches every day. And he has had some success trying to bounce back from Tommy John surgery. Made it as far as AAA for a little while, but a nice piece. If you're a South Carolina baseball fan, you might want to check that out. Going back to Coach Holbrook in College Charleston, the Wilmington Star News' Alex Riley reported that Matt Williams of North Carolina Wilmington is one of the coaches being considered for that pitching coach position at College of Charleston. Did we mention that already? Because I think you said something about it would be good to get somebody that knows the conference.
Exactly. Yeah, we mentioned that. I think Thursday you mentioned it. Yeah. And,
of course, Wilmington is in the Colonial along with Northeastern up in Boston, North Carolina, Wilmington, We've Mary, Delaware, Elon, James Madison, Hofstra, and Towson. All those schools, well, not all the schools, but North Carolina, Wilmington, they were here, as Coach mentioned, in a regional. North Carolina, Wilmington, We've Mary, Elon, James Madison, they have been semi-regular opponents through the years of the Gamecocks. All right, top of the hour. You folks on the line, be patient. We'll try to get to you in the second hour. We've got plenty of room for some telephone calls. David Sheldon will join us to talk some high school sports as well. But we do appreciate Coach Chad Holbrook being with us a little bit earlier. Apologize for this past Friday. We had some personnel situations come up, and we were supposed to have Coach Holbrook on this past Friday. All right, we top of the hour break. We'll be back today after Tom Hayes, Sports Talk.
stop now. More sports talk is on its way. Listen to the final word in sports all across the state with your host, Phil Kornblut.
And obviously, I'm not Phil Kornblut. I'm a lot better looking. He is still on vacation. We'll be back next Monday. I think he's back home. If not, his pit bulls are still there. So they're kind of protecting the house. Do appreciate Chad Holbrook joining us a little bit earlier. We got some room for some telephone calls. Just a second. I want to catch you up to date on a couple of news notes. First of all, I want to mention this again. CBS Sports. .com had the best Major League players from each of the 50 states and the best NBA player from each of the 50 states. Best NBA player, we all got this one. Kevin Garnett from Malden. Alex English was second. Larry Nance third. Jermaine O'Neal was fourth. But the best Major League Baseball player from South Carolina, Willie Randolph. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, Willie was a good player. Don't get me wrong. Good player. No doubt about it. Six-time All-Star. But, I mean, he's no shoeless Joe Jackson.
Boy,
I mean, shoeless not eligible like he's not eligible for the Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Bubba Newsom, Larry Doby. They didn't mention Jim Rice. How can he not mention Jim Rice? And, of course, Willie Randolph was, he spent a month in Hall, moved to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Somebody was wanting me to compare Willie and Bobby Richardson. Willie hit 276, 54 home runs, 687 RBIs. Bobby hit 266 with 34 home runs, 390 RBIs. But Bobby, a lot of it was leadoff hitter. I think Willie hit probably hit some leadoff, but certainly didn't do it when Ricky Henderson was there. And when Mick the Quick with the super stick, Mickey Rivers, remember him? I love Mickey Rivers. Bobby was an 8-time All-Star, won 5 Gold Gloves, and was the 1960 World Series MVP. Still the only World Series MVP from a losing team. You know why? Because they voted in like the 7th inning. They took up all the ballots. Then Bill Mazeroski hit a home run in the 9th. Yeah. Wait a minute, let me get that ballot back. But anyway, I found that kind of interesting. I'm not one that likes poll questions and Mount Rushmores and all that. I think that's lazy sports talk. But I did think that was pretty interesting.
Well, the interesting thing about Willie Randolph is with some of those cast of characters that those Yankee teams had, he seemed at times to be the only sane person on the field.
Craig Nettle said growing up he wanted to play Major League Baseball, and he also wanted to join the circus. He said he got to do both with the Yankees. The Baltimore Colts general manager, Chris Ballard, says Andrew Luck will start training camp on the physically unable to perform list, still recovering from off-season shoulder surgery. Mike Williams says, who say all those things they say I say? He is refuting reports that he was on the verge of back surgery, says everything is fine. He's good to go. But he is also expected to start training camp on the physically unable to perform list. Panthers GM Marty Herney has fired personnel director Mark Kontz. He had been promoted 2 months ago by recently departed GM Dave Gettleman. That comes a day before the players report. I think they report tomorrow. Yeah. Baseball, not good news. Back injury reportedly will sideline the Dodgers' Clayton Kershaw for 4 to 6 weeks. That's the initial prognosis. They do plan to get a second opinion. Red Sox calling up their top prospect, Rafael Devers or Devers. Do you know how that's pronounced?
When in doubt, Devers.
We're going Devers. He will fill their third base void they've had for a while. And the Braves and Twins finally completed that trade they thought they'd completed last week. The Twins acquiring left-handed pitcher Jaime Garcia and catcher Anthony Recker from Atlanta. The Braves get cash and minor league pitcher Huascar Ynoa. Kurt Suzuki was activated from the bereavement list. Arizona hosting Atlanta tonight, 9:40. R.A. Dickey going up against Zach Greinke. Greinke 11-4 with a 2.97 earned run average. The American Legion State Tournament in Sumter is being held up in the 8th inning by rain, and Chapin Newberry has a 7-3 lead over Gaffney in that one. All right, 1-800-956-7266. Got John in Rock Hill with us, home of the infamous Rick Sanford. John, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Great.
So I just got home a little bit ago, and I saw a report. I honestly don't the report's coming from, but there is a report out there that, with this issue about Kyrie Irving, he doesn't want to play in Cleveland anymore with LeBron, which I totally get. That's a different discussion. Apparently the Celtics have reached out to Cleveland, and Danny Ainge is keeping tabs on the situation in Cleveland with Kyrie Irving. And I was just thinking, we have a point guard in Isaiah Thomas, and I get people saying, oh, he's only 5'9", but I'm like, he's got more help now. And I was just thinking that'd be kind of odd because Celtics already have a point guard, and honestly, I'd rather have Isaiah than Kyrie, but that's just me. I'd rather have Isaiah.
Well, I think Kyrie's an outstanding player. Now, he's not a great defensive player, though.
No. Well, but he potentially is a better defensive player. Here's your problem with Boston right now.
You know what potential means.
Yeah.
He's not worth a damn yet.
Isaiah Thomas, your best offensive team on the court is when Isaiah Thomas is on the court. Your worst defensive team is when Isaiah Thomas is on the court. Because if you notice, they rotate guys over to his side of the court, and they just exploit that. That's been Boston's weakness. And even at the point guard position now, when you see teams like Golden State, you better have somebody that can rebound, that can help you out. So his length does defeat some of the things you want to do defensively. And that's why you always look to upgrade. If you can get Kyrie Irving, you could potentially, really battle for the Eastern Conference title. I think without him, Boston is a solid team, but they won't get past Cleveland.
Well, Kyrie needs to stay put, in my opinion. I mean, how often do you get to play with one of the greatest players of all time? And I don't know where you put him, but LeBron James is certainly in the top 5, if not higher than that.
Well, here's the other
last
thing,
year,
Ted.
let me tell you this. Last year, with LeBron off the floor and Kyrie on the floor, you know what their record was? 0-8.
Yes.
0-8. So, Kyrie, if you want to be the man and you want to carry a team, I'm just not so sure you're ready to do that.
Well, here's the other key is, LeBron will be a free agent after next year anyway. And some people say he will probably, since he gave Cleveland the championship, he may shop around. Well, Kyrie, there's your chance to be your own man.
Yeah, just stay
in Cleveland.
Well, he did before when LeBron went to Miami. How'd that work out?
Not so good. Not so good.
You know what I like Kyrie Irving about is that when they dressed him up as an old man and put him in one of the city parks, I guess it was in New York. I'm not sure where it was. Have you seen that on YouTube? Oh, you got to watch that. It was hilarious. I mean, he comes out as an old man, and of course he holding his back, and he missed the first couple of shots, and they're hooting and hollering at him, and then he starts to put on a show. It was fun. All right, real quickly, let Glenn in North Charleston join us. Jared, Glenn, appreciate you calling tonight.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Great.
I just want to get a real quick thing about blind sports. I thought the Charleston area needs to emphasize more like a blind baseball. They had a blind basketball team at one time in Columbia, but for some reason, I guess the money ran out. I think they need to raise money and have more interest in blind sports, and especially have tournaments like with other blind teams in America and everything. I think it'll go well with basketball as well.
I'll tell you what used to impress me. Have you ever seen blind golfers? I mean, they have to have somebody set the ball up for them and point them in the direction. And I've seen blind golfers that could beat me, and I used to be a decent player. That's just kind of awe-inspiring is what it is.
Well, the concentration level and the mechanics, they're pretty more consistent with their mechanics.
Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty impressive. All right, Glenn, appreciate the call. I know used to get some lessons from Robin All here, and the first lesson Robin would give his students he'd be over the ball with his golf club and say, you got to keep your eye on the ball. You can't hit it unless you got your eye on the ball. And while he's looking at him, he takes a swing and hits it about 280 down the middle. All right, timeout. Teddy Hefner, Tom Hayes, and joined by the producer Jared Rogers here on Sports Talk. Got room for you. Please join us. Houston is at Philadelphia tonight, 7:05. I guess they're underway. The Astros are 7-0 in interleague play this season. Only two teams have won their first 8 interleague games, the 2014 Marlins and the 2006 Mariners. Now, Houston was a team that was patient, and they did it the right way. Brought those young guys up. We saw George Springer when he was here in Columbia. Well, he played against Clemson in the regional there, and then came to Columbia, played in the regional. Connecticut upset Clemson, and then lost to the Gamecocks. I think that was the 2000. Well, yeah, it was because 2011, I believe, when the Gamecocks won their second national championship. The first national championship, they won the Super Regional at Coastal Carolina. All right, room for you, 1-800-956-7266, 1-800-956-7266. That sounds like Phil's golf score, except I don't know about the 2. He probably cheated on that hole. But 1-800-956-7266. If you would like to join us, David Shelton from the High School Sports Report will join us at the bottom of the hour. First Baptist, isn't First Baptist the defending independent champions, Cusa champs? I think they are. They started practice today.
Oh, my goodness.
Yep, high school practice today because they opened the season a week earlier than everybody else. Friday is when the high schools start football practice. Just too early. Wow. I can go back. I can take a USC media guide and go back to my younger days when they didn't start the season until September 10th, September 17th. Now, Gamecocks will be practicing on July 31st. Well, it's just getting earlier and earlier and earlier. Of course, back then they only played 10 games. Then they went to 11, and now 12. And then with the playoff, I mean, Clemson played 15 games last year. That's a year and a half of the what teams used to play some years back. I mentioned the Chapin Newberry Gaffney score in the American Legion State Tournament at Riley Park in Sumter. 7-3, delayed by rain in the 8th inning. Chapin Newberry ahead. Rock Hill and Florence is scheduled to play the night game if they can get that one in. You know, speaking of Clemson, Dabo is 89-28. Does he get his 100th win this year?
Yeah, it's a possibility. He will. You know, let's face it now. He's got that target on his back. He's a defending national champion. Right. Florida State lurking back there, and so is Louisville. But I think Louisville lost too much on defense, Teddy. I really think they got an explosive offense. And what Florida State is honoring, especially that game, which I saw the replay of over the weekend, when North Carolina stole that game in Tallahassee in the last few seconds. There's another team potentially can be dangerous if they find a quarterback, and that's North Carolina.
Well, Clemson needs to decide who their quarterback is going to be and need to do it quickly because they play Auburn at home the second week and then at Louisville. The latest lines I saw have Tigers favored by 7 against Auburn, but a 2-point underdog at Louisville, favored by, I want to say 5 if my memory serves, which often it does not, against Florida State. Jared printed out some prop bets, Props PR. Jimmy Shapiro, some of the prop bets that are kind of interesting. Will Alabama make the 4-team playoff? 2-5 that they will, 7-4 that they won't. Y'all got to figure out how to do these bettings because I don't know. I know how to give points and take points, and that's about it.
That's me.
Florida State 7-5 to make the playoffs. Southern Cal 7-5. Ohio State 3-2. Oklahoma 5-2. LSU 4-1. LSU. Penn State 4-1. Where's Clemson on this list? Clemson 6-1. Michigan 5-1. Auburn 6-1. Clemson 6-1. So they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams with better odds to make the 4-team playoff than the Clemson Tigers.
Well, you know, the key point is, Teddy, as good as you are as a team, you got to be fortunate sometimes, and that's avoiding the injury bug. And on those days when you don't come with it all, somebody has to bail you out. And let's face it. Well,
that's been Deshaun Watson the past 3 years. Yeah,
Clemson, you know, that game against NC State, the missed field goal, and then you still had a chance to rebound after the loss to Pittsburgh. And that's going to be a key, I think, for Clemson, because one of the things you got to watch out about Clemson is, as good as their defense is, Teddy, there are teams that could run up the middle on them and throw the little dump pass, which is what Pitt did most of the football game against the
Well, they
Tigers.
threw that Utah pass,
Exactly.
whatever you want to call it, the shovel pass.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Athlon preseason magazine's got Florida State 12-1, 8-0 in the league. Clemson 10-2, 6-2 in the league. I think they'll lose 2 league games. I guess they figure Louisville and Florida State.
I can't see them losing to Louisville.
Got Louisville 9-3 and 5-3. And if you're wondering about the Gamecocks over in the SEC, they picked them to go 6-6, 4-4 in the league. Big first game, that first one on September the 2nd for South Carolina. If the Gamecocks want to win 7 games, I mean, obviously they want to win 7 games, but if they hope to win 7 games, I do think they need to get NC State. And that, Tom, that would set them up in the right frame of mind going to a not real good Missouri team, but it's on the road. Mm-hmm. And Gamecocks have a habit of turning from bullies to wimps when they go on the road. Then you got Kentucky at home. I mean, I know Kentucky's beaten them 3 straight times, but before that, South Carolina beat them 13 out of 14, I believe it was. And then Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech's not going to be a pushover. You know, Skip Holt's going to come in here. Because Skip Holtz was offered. I mean, when Skip Holtz came here, it was the understanding that he was going to take over for his father. Now, I think Skip understood. I mean, when you get Steve Spurrier, you don't pass on the chance to get Steve Spurrier. But if the Gamecocks can get that game against NC State, they've got a good chance of maybe starting 4-0 and heading to Texas A&M. And by the 5th week of the year, Texas A&M may be in disarray.
Well, you know, the important thing about South Carolina, you say going on the road, Teddy, that's where the offensive line has to come in because they got a stable of backs that I can compare with anyone. And I think probably if they get some good blocking, you can that running game, if you crank that running game up on the road and that increases more success on the play action pass, I think that's just all to the good for South Carolina. It'll be interesting to see, but it's all bent on that offensive line. As I said before, why does Alabama show up every year? And almost every year they got a different quarterback, but they still got those strong lines of scrimmage. Both
sides of it, and I think Clemson's got a chance to be pretty good on both sides of it this year as well. But Missouri, I think, is beatable on the road. The other 3 road games, I mean, looking at it right now on July 24th, I don't see the Gamecocks winning at Texas A&M, at Tennessee, or at Georgia, but I didn't think they'd beat Tennessee last year, and they were able to do that. I think I got my Red Sox fan from Lake Bowen with us. Is that right? Yeah. All right. Red Sox finally getting a third baseman.
Let me say, Teddy, you and Tom did the quickest work on that I've ever seen.
Well, you asked for a third baseman.
We just talked about that. I told you I needed a third baseman and get rid of the Panda. Well, we've got a third baseman that's projected to be pretty good. I hope he is.
Left-handed.
And the Panda's gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, he ate himself. I think the Giants have picked him up and put him in their minor league
Panda.
system.
He's back where he wanted to be. He's back in the Bay Area. Yeah.
I don't know if he's in the Bay Area, but they signed him to a minor league contract. But, this Rafael Devers, I believe it is how you pronounce it. It might be Devers, but they're very high on him.
That's good. And I think you're exactly right about the Gamecocks. I'm a Gamecock fan and a Gamecock graduate. I believe that first game of the season may have the key of the whole season.
Crucial.
I really do.
Crucial.
And thank you for getting me a third baseman and getting rid of the Panda.
All right, let me know anything else we can help you with. Just let me know. I used to know the manager of the Red Sox in the old days.
Oh, yeah.
That was a long time ago. Long time ago.
Your old roommate.
My old roommate, Butch Hobson. All right, we'll be back. All right, Teddy Hefner back with you. My headset just died on me. Give me a second. We'll be joined in just a second by David Shelton from the High School Sports Report. A little bit of breaking news from the National Basketball Association. Derrick Rose and the Cleveland Cavaliers have agreed to a one-year deal. A one-year deal. I don't know if this – Jared, say something to me. No, that didn't work. All right. So I'm going to have to grab another headset. Give me a second, folks. Give me a second as we do some technical work here. Oh, yeah. Okay. Anyway, Derrick Rose agreeing to a one-year deal with the Cavaliers. Interesting stat here. Hang on, David. We'll get right to you. But Derrick Rose, when he takes the court with the Cavaliers, will be the 6th #1 overall pick to team with LeBron James, Andrew Bogut, Greg Oden, Shaquille O'Neal, Joe Smith. All are the others. So we'll get to some more conversation about that. But now, time to talk some high school football. David Shelton from the High School Sports Report is joining us. David, long time no talk to.
Yeah, it's been a while, Teddy. I can't believe we're both still alive.
Well, some people wonder.
Oh, I get that too.
Yeah, some people definitely wonder. All right, we're just a few days away. My understanding is that First Baptist started practice today. They've got a game, early game in Alabama or somewhere, but everybody else gets started this weekend. And one thing I hope that these high school coaches have learned is how to deal with the heat.
Well, they better have learned because it's going to be hot and humid, especially down around in South Carolina. It's going to be, and it seems like it's always have a break in the heat right before football practice starts. And then the day football practice starts, it's back in the upper 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So coaches can expect that. But there's been so much done in the way of medical strength and conditioning and preparing coaches for this kind of stuff. There really is no reason why athletes should not be fully prepared for this heat.
Are we looking at the usual suspects this year in high school football?
Yeah. Not a lot changes from year to year. I mean, you will have a team jump up like Chapman did last year in 3A and upset Dillon, but then Chapman's now one of those usual suspects. They're ranked #1 going in 3A, but the Fort Dorchester, Dutch Forks, Northwesterns, Gaffneys, Sumters, those type teams, Abbeville in 2A, South Point in 4A, Hartsville, all those teams are going to be very good again, and it's just a testament to their program and their coaching staff that they can continue to rebuild year after year after year and be competitive.
Who do you have your rankings right in front of you? Who's the top, say, 3 teams in 5A?
We have going in Gaffney, Fort Dorchester, and Dutch Fort, and
hard to argue.
And then in that next group, right behind them, Dorman, Northwestern. All those teams are going to be very good again in 5A. And personally, if this was a conglomeration pick of everybody, I did not have Gaffney #1. I still think Dutch Fork, until you beat them, is the team to beat. But there are some really good games early in that classification. Spartanburg and Somerville open the season against each other. Fort Dorchester opens with Dorman, and then Dutch Fork will play Fort and Somerville in the first 3 weeks of the season. So there's going to be a lot of shaking and moving there in the first couple of weeks of the season in 5A.
How about just real quickly go down the other classifications with the top 2 or 3 teams?
Well, in 4A, you have the Finney State champ, South Point, followed by Hartsville and BHP, Belton, Honey, and Path. Myrtle Beach is also going to be pretty good in 4A. 3A, you have Chapman, Dillon, Newberry, Fairfield Central are the top 4. 2A, you have Abbeville, Barnwell, Sherrall, and Saluda. And in 1A, again, the usual suspects, Lamar, Lakeview, and Louisville. The 3 L's, Phil's not there, but Latta's no longer in Class A, so we don't have 4 L's anymore. We just have 3.
David, one of the problems that are one of the things I'm very concerned about with high school sports is the transfers, that how they allow transfers so easily. And I know there's two ways of looking at that. For instance, if I had a son or a daughter who was a great math student and the school across town had a much better math department, I would probably want he or she to go to that math department. But with football, I don't know, if you have a son who's a great football player in your school is just so in football, maybe you want to go across town to the other. But just a couple of years ago, I knew one of the Columbia schools had 42 athletic transfers, 42. And there was a lot of hard feelings about a couple other transfer situations here in the Columbia area. Is that a statewide problem with all the I remember when South Point and Northwest were on TV a couple of years ago, one of the starters for one of the schools, he started for the other school the year before.
Yeah. Well, you're starting to see a little bit of that. And to answer your question, it's an issue statewide, and it's not only football. You're seeing it in baseball, seeing it a lot in basketball, but football is obviously the one that most people pay attention to, and it is where it is most prevalent. Down here in the Low Country, you're seeing 8 to 12 kids switch schools every year. It's a problem, I hate to call it a problem. It's an issue, because coaches who get these transfers don't see it as a problem. But in the Midlands area, in the Spartanburg area, in the Rock Hill area, Rock Hill recently, that area up there made their school board or whatever took action and says, they're going to put a clamp on that going from school to school.
Good.
But it's going to take, the high school league is really, a lot of people point to them, but their hands are tied. If they tried to challenge and look into every single transfer that came through, they would do that 365 days out of the year. They'd never do anything else, because that's how many transfers are going through. Well, you have to hope that people do it legally.
David, I understand that. But once there's a complaint, it is the high school league's job to investigate that. And quite frankly, I think they do a lousy job.
Well, the problem is the complaining now is not as big an issue anymore, because like I said, there's a lot of people doing it. Mm-hmm. So, you're going to complain that your quarterback left, and came to my school, but my point guard left and went to your school. So then we, it's like, it's sort of the, it's sort of the districts now have control of this. And if you get the principals of each school involved to sign off on the transfer, then it's kind of legal. And like you said, you can't, it's really a hard line, because like you said, if you're a great math student, or you're a tremendous band instrument player, and the school across town has the best band in the country, well, you obviously, we can't say, hey, you can't go over there and play in that band. Mm-hmm. But in reality, if you don't do the things legally to get into that school district to switch schools, you shouldn't be allowed to do it. But like I said, I know the districts now are starting to kind of just sign off on these things, and the rich get richer, so to speak.
Well, one of the key positions now on the high school staff is the recruiting coordinator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. de facto recruiting coordinator.
And sometimes that guy doesn't even coach a position now, and he's just a recruiting coordinator. But, I heard an instance this summer where a basketball player was at one school and decided he wanted to go to another school, and kind of shopped himself around a little bit to 3 or 4 different area schools, and kind of like a college, a kid would do it with making visits. He visited each program and talked to the coaches, and I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. This kid's just a junior in high school, but that's what they do.
Well, speaking of recruiting and not recruiting, let's look at the population, and we can hold David over. But I want you to think about this, David. The population explosion in Charleston, when is that going to equate with some kind of football dominance down in that Charleston area? You can be thinking about that till we return.
Fort Dorchester's not bad. Just a quick story. A couple years ago, had a young lady play lacrosse for one of the Columbia area teams. And she went through the whole preseason, was elected the team captain.
Mm-hmm.
The week before school started, she decided she was going to the other school. I mean, I don't know if she had a run-in with a coach or what, but how do you allow someone to transfer to another school after they've been at, of course, they hadn't been in school, but they've certainly been on the practice field.
Yep.
It's just, David Shelton from the High School Sports Report is joining us. David, the professor was asking you about Charleston football.
Yeah, for a while there, it seemed every year Charleston was putting, or I wouldn't say Charleston, the Low Country, primarily Berkeley County, was putting teams in the state finals and winning state titles. You have Timberland, Bishop England won a couple, Berkeley won a couple, Stratford was in the finals a few years ago, and then the Fort Dorchester has made a run here of late. Though they've only played in one finals, they've been very close. But you mentioned the population explosion. I think there's a potential for a couple of schools to really benefit from that. I think Berkeley's on the way back. They just needed a coaching change and a change in attitude and philosophy. They've always had great athletes there. I think Cane Bay is in a situation where they're going to benefit from the Volvo plant building and some other things going on. That area over there in Berkeley County is really growing. Probably going to be another high school in Berkeley County in the next 10 years because it's growing so fast. But, I was talking with Wando coach Jimmy Noonan today. Of course, Wando is the biggest school in South Carolina enrollment-wise. There are about 4,000 students. And he was saying, David, we have 2,000 boys. Let's just assume we have 2,000 boys. We have 80 come out for football. So it's not that football is not – now, he said now in soccer or in lacrosse, they'll have twice that. So it kind of depends on where you are and what kind of athletes you're drawing. But I think, other than Fort Dorchester and Berkeley, I think Bishop England is going to have a pretty good year this year. And I think Timberland year in and year out, stuck out there where nobody's looking, but they always win 10 games and they're always contending. But I don't see anybody new. Although I think Somerville may be on the way back. They're going to be pretty good this year, I think. I think Joe Call's really getting some things energized over there. So you may see a team or two challenging for state titles over the next couple of years, but I don't think there'll be very many new teams. I think it'll be just unless Cane Bay is a team that can make a run.
Okay. All right, David, we appreciate it. Hope you have a great night, and sure that Phil and Tom will be talking to you a bunch more during the high school football season.
Okay, guys, y'all take care.
Okay, David Shelton with the High School Sports Report. And I think we've got a caller from Charleston. Rod wants to talk a little bit about Charleston football. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
Doing great, sir.
Yeah, in regards to what the professor was saying about all the growth in Charleston and everything, I mean, we like football. We love football as much as anybody, but what we want down here is some more roads built. I mean, everybody's moving in. Bowling's moving in. Volvo's moving in. We got 45, 50 people moving in every week. But we haven't had a new road project here in at least 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of jokingly have a motto around here is let's build a wall around Charleston. Let's have the state of Ohio pay for it. That's how bad it's getting down here. So anyway, I just wanted to make those comments. You guys have a good evening.
Charleston, of course, is now the largest city in South Carolina. The latest census, I think, about 76 people.
Well, it would have been large if North Charleston had actually been the largest city years ago.
And that doesn't
but that does not include
that doesn't include the metropolitan area. But if you start adding the metropolitan area with North Charleston and Mount Pleasant and all that, boy, you're right. You a bunch of people. Of course, Columbia would have RMO and what else is around here? All the other areas around here.
Lexington,
Lexington. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Traffic in Lexington is worse than the traffic in Atlanta. And I've been on that 526 in Charleston when it's just parking lot.
Well, even here in Columbia, a guy told me, time my new house is over in Lexington. I went over to the part of Lexington he was talking about. I said, man, you halfway to Augusta. You talking about you in Lexington.
One other high school note, mentioned this one earlier, but airport punter Paxton Brooks has earned a spot in the Under Armour All-American game. That game will be played at the Citrus Bowl in Orlando in January. 6 foot 170. He is the second Midlands player to be selected to a national all-star game. Spring Valley linebacker Channing Tyndall picked for the U.S. Army All-American Bowl. And if I'm leaving somebody else out in the state, I apologize. I guess I maybe should have mentioned this when David was on the air, and he could have mentioned some other folks as well. But Brooks, with a number of offers, including North Carolina State and Tennessee, which is pretty good because a lot of coaches don't believe in offering scholarships to punters.
Well, I tell you what, everybody thought it was crazy when it first started. But I think when the Raiders had Ray Guy back in the day, drafting him with the #1 pick, and they said, what in the world are they doing?
Right.
Probably one of the most tremendous weapons you've ever seen.
He's the best I ever saw.
Yeah,
he's definitely the best.
You just knew he was going to get off a 60 or 65 yarder and put your defense on the other guy's side of the field. He was a weapon by his own.
He is absolutely the best that I ever saw, and he could really kick it.
Well, you remember the old slow motion when they showed you that his extension, his foot was way above his head.
No, tremendously
tremendously
loose and flexible. Yeah.
But that's when what Southern Miss had the two top punters in the NFL, Ray Guy and Gerald Wilson, kicked with the Chiefs, and they both were from Southern Miss.
Well, their offense wasn't very good, so they got a lot of practice.
Right, exactly.
All right, Tom, I appreciate your help today. Appreciate the phone calls. I'll be back tomorrow as well. We want to start getting a few more comments from you folks on air. If you have not heard, NBA, Derrick Rose signing with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He has agreed to a 1-year deal. What does that do with Kyrie Irving?
I really think that's just a guy they had, another veteran to come off the bench because, let's face it, he's a shell of himself. And here's the interesting thing, Teddy. Because he played with such a reckless abandon, what is the old term they used to use? A candle that burns twice as bright, burns half as long.
Right.
And he pretty much burned himself out. I kept telling people that NBA is a game where some people can't stand to watch it because I say the guys have to pace themselves.
Right.
You're playing 82 games. Derrick Rose hit the court, and he was like, if this was the last game of his life. And
in this day and age, if you sit out a game, people raise Cain about it.
Exactly.
Pirates GM Marty Herney has fired their personnel director, Mark Kuntz, as well. He had been promoted just 2 months ago by recently departed GM Dave Gettleman. Panthers in Spartanburg tomorrow to start training camp. And the Twins and the Braves finally completed that trade they'd been working on, Jaime Garcia going to Minnesota, along with catcher Anthony Recker. Cash and minor league pitcher Huascar Yanoa headed to Atlanta. Braves also activated Kurt Suzuki, catcher from the bereavement list.
And I think at the beginning, the guy we saw the young pitcher last year, Matt Whistler, I think is going to be brought up. But then a blast from the past, a guy who had all injury problems, probably lost his curveball, that's been in the minors, Chris Medlin.
I hadn't seen him in a while.
Return.
Yeah, haven't seen Chris in a while. All right, appreciate it, Tom. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Really look forward to that. Philip will continue to be on vacation for the rest of the rest of the week.
Wonder if he's gonna come back looking with all that brush beard he had on the last time.
I don't know.
Be interesting.
Be tan and fit, man. Tan and fit. See you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great night.